You have to think about your website always in terms of, what if a complete stranger sees this? What if somebody is coming to this who doesn't follow me on Instagram, who's not on my email list? I want to give them the information without assuming that they already know X, Y, and Z about my course. I want people to feel proud to send their link and not, oh, yeah, you have questions. Let me just email you the information. Like, I want you to feel confident in sending your website and know that it can sell for you and convert people into clients. Especially also, there's a lot of health misinformation out on the internet, as we are all very aware. And I really want the expert voices to be loud and not the misinformation.
Hi, I'm Charlene Oy, dietitian turned business and marketing coach, and you're listening to the Nutrition Business Show. I've been a dietitian for over a decade, generated millions online, and we've helped thousands of health professionals. So if you're looking for a smarter way to grow your nutrition practice and create online programs to scale your business more sustainably, then you're in the right place. So let's dive in. Hello there. Welcome back to the Nutrition Business Show podcast. You're listening to episode 38. Now, as a business coach and marketing mentor, I often get questions from dietitians and nutritionists I work with about websites, especially for someone new. They are asking, should I build a website? If that's the case, what platforms should I choose? And if you started looking into it, you would have realized that there's so many options available, going from WordPress to Squarespace to Wix to Showit, and the list just goes on. I also get asked questions about SEO, whether that's important and how someone can go about doing SEO research, and whether blogs are still relevant in 2025. So with all these questions, I thought, who best to get on to the podcast than a website designer that works exclusively with dietitians, nutritionists, and personal trainers, so she can answer all these questions for you. So she is none other than Jessica Freeman from Jess Creatives. This episode is packed full of practical strategy, so you gotta wanna have your notebook ready to take notes. And the strategies are going to be so relevant for you, whether you have a in-person private practice or group practice, or if you go online, whether you have an online course, a membership, a group program, and you offer one-on-one services, there's going to be lots of practical tips for you to take away. So without further ado, let's dive into my conversation with Jess. Hello, Jess. Welcome to the Nutrition Business Show. I'm so thrilled to have you on today.
Yes, I'm so excited to be here and chat all things websites and SEO. I run Jess Creatives. I've been in business for 14 years, and I specialize in working with dietitians and personal trainers and other health professionals to help them build a website that allows them to spend less time on social media and bring in more clients organically. I really think it's important for your website to actually work for you and actually help your business, and not just have this kind of thing that sits there and collects dust and you're like, I don't really want to use it. I don't know. It's just there. I want people to feel proud to send their link and not, oh, yeah, you have questions. Let me just email you the information. Like, I want you to feel confident in sending your website and know that it can sell for you and convert people into clients.
Absolutely. Look, I think a website should be something that reflects us, our personality, our vision, our business. So it needs to be something we're proud of.
Yes.
Now, before we dig into all those details, I think our listeners will be really curious why you specialize in working with dietitians and nutritionists and personal trainers.
Yes. So I have a personal interest in health and fitness. I am a type 1 diabetic, and I've been diabetic since I was 3. And so obviously my health is at the forefront of my mind and always has been. And I have personally worked with dietitians and personal trainers in my life, and I know how important the work that you do is to people, especially people like me, but even those who don't have chronic conditions. And especially also, there's a lot of health misinformation out on the internet, as we are all very aware. And I really want the expert voices to be loud and not the misinformation. So I really want to help elevate you so the right information gets in front of people instead of the TikTok trends and the bad advice out there by influencers. I really want to help the credentialed experts get more visible.
Amen to that. I love the why behind your brand. And I think it just is so comforting to know that not just because you have type 1 diabetes, but you understand, you've worked for dietitians in the past, so you understand the things that we believe in, and pulling in that website building skill set, that strategy behind it. I think it's so cool. So yeah, let's dig into the first question I have for you, which is a very popular one that I get asked quite a lot, which is which website platforms are the best out there? There's so many. So maybe you could start with listing some and sharing which ones you think work best for the nutrition profession.
Yeah. So my top two go-to platforms are WordPress and Squarespace. I kind of consider them like the gold standard when it comes to websites. They are widely used, so it's not going to be difficult to find someone who can help you with that, where sometimes these newer platforms, you might be like, oh, look, like this new platform, it's flashy and fun and it's cheaper. But then are you going to be able to like easily find support for that website? And not just like a website designer to build it, but if you have tech issues in 6 months and you can't figure it out, are you going to actually be able to find someone who can help you figure out why your contact form isn't working or whatever it is? And because Squarespace and WordPress are so widely used, it's also easy even to just find YouTube videos and blog posts and tutorials. So even if it's not directly hiring someone, it's easy to get that support and whatnot. They're both great for SEO. They're both fairly easy to use. Now, anybody who's tried WordPress and you maybe are like, WordPress is not easy to use, Jess, what are you talking about? I always remind people that if you did not enjoy WordPress and you were confused or overwhelmed, it was likely your theme, not WordPress. Because the theme is how you edit things. And some themes are easier to use than others. Some are more like coded. And if you got something that was super like hard to update, then yeah, that was probably a really frustrating experience because you're like, I can't actually edit anything. I have to reach out to my developer every time I want an update. There are lots of drag and drop builders now. So if you hated WordPress previously, and you've like, I don't know, maybe I should go back. Like, just think about a different theme. So those are my top two, but Showit is fairly popular and good. It does have some accessibility and SEO issues that I am a little like cautious about. So I don't hate Showit, but it's not my absolute favorite. Shopify is popular if you are someone who's like selling nutrition supplements or more product-based. I have seen a very small surge, maybe I shouldn't say surge, but very small like uptick in people using Shopify, even if they're just selling digital products, where Shopify is really geared towards like physical products. So I've seen even some people who are like one-to-one based like me, but maybe sell a few digital products, they're switching to Shopify. I wouldn't recommend that, but I've seen a few people. So if you've heard about Shopify, it's also a very solid platform. It's just very product focused.
Yeah, I have a sense that it's geared towards e-commerce.
Yes, very much.
I think that it's probably because there is a few very popular social media gurus out there suggesting that, and that's probably where it came from. And perhaps the cost is cheap as well. So that's probably what drew a lot of people towards that platform.
Yeah. So those Showit and Shopify are other options that you could consider, but I like probably wouldn't. And so again, Squarespace and WordPress are really the gold standard. Webflow is also like newer and becoming more popular. I find it would be a little too like techie for most people who aren't web designers. Like You're a
I agree.
dietitian, a personal trainer. You don't want to be having to get into the techie side of things every time you need to update your website or something. It's a good platform for the most part. I don't love it for the main reason that you can't export your blog post or your content. So if and when you want to move to another platform in the future, you would have to like manually copy and paste all those.
That would be a pain.
Yes. So a lot of designers have jumped into Webflow, and I'm like, sure, it looks like a great platform, but you can't export. And I'm always about doing what's best for the small business and protecting my clients. And I'm like, I do not want you to have to manually copy and paste blog posts, which is also why I do not recommend Wix or Weebly. So those are often also popular, especially for DIYers or people who are just starting out. They're like, oh, it's easy to use, and they have a lot of marketing. So you've probably seen YouTube ads for it.
Yeah,
And
especially Wix.
Yes, especially Wix. You don't have that export feature. And so again, like you're on that platform for 5 or 6 years, you build up a bunch of pages and blog posts. You're going to have to manually copy those over, and that is a big pain. You should be able to just download all your content and move it to another platform, which both Squarespace and WordPress do, and they make it super easy to just, I want to move, and I can move and make it happen.
Yeah, that's such a good train of thought as well. Like I'm always thinking into the future. You want to build your website, your courses, and email list, all of that in a platform that allows you to grow with your business. And website's one of those things you may want to update your branding every few years or move it to another platform. You want it to be easy. So don't just go for the pricing and let that be the only determinant, but look at how easy it is to use. Like you say, most of us are not techie. So I think it's so important to choose something that is easy for you to build. Someone came to me a while ago and said someone else helped her build it on WordPress. And every time she needed to make a change, she has to contact her developer. And it's like they charge her by the hour. So it just gets really expensive for maintenance. Yeah, such a key thing to remember. Now, Jess, you mentioned about WordPress with the themes. Can you give us a couple of themes that you find is super user-friendly?
Yeah, so I love Divi and Elementor. Those are both pretty good. And I also recently started using Cadence. So that's Cadence with a K. And it is very easy to use. It's where like Divi and Elementor, you have like front end, back end, and it's drag and drop ish. So I kind of relate it to Canva almost. It's a little bit more than like that. It's not quite as easy as Canva where you just drag and drop, because it works within like columns and rows, which is good. Some people are like, I just want to be able to like put this over here. But for responsiveness and accessibility, good design works in a grid. And it's actually a good thing that they keep you in these columns and rows. But Divi and Elementor both have this kind of drag and drop. And so you can like, oh, I just want to move this button down over to this paragraph, and you can just drag it over there. Cadence is also very easy. It is drag and drop, but it's much simpler, and there's not necessarily this front end, back end. And so you can edit really just like right there on the page, which is nice. And so those are like my 3 go-to themes.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, I've used Elementor myself and I know how simple it is to use. I can just go on and make edits myself without having to ask my husband to do it all the time. So that's fun. I currently use Show It, and I would say I don't recommend that for beginners. It's a very creative based platform, but it is tricky. Like you can customize things to the point where it becomes annoying because you have to customize every single detail with the mobile view and the desktop view. So it is a bit of work. So yeah, that's come up before as well about Show It. So appreciate you bring that up. Now, Jess, you have seen so many websites in your time and build many as well. So what do you see are some of the common mistakes that dietitians and nutritionists make on their websites?
One of the biggest ones, I have a few that first come to mind, but one of the biggest ones actually goes back to something you said a few minutes ago about our site should reflect who we are and our personality. And I find that a lot of people, when they first do their website, especially for those who like DIY their website, it really lacks the personality. It comes across very plain. And I'm not saying that every site has to be like bright colors and like huge images, but you can communicate your personality through the brand photos, through the colors, even if it's soft colors, even if it's black and white, like that is still communicating your personality, because black and white is very luxury. It's typically very like high end. So if you're trying to attract a higher end client, like you can still I have a client who is primarily black and white colors, and then through the copy, really communicating your personality that way. But a lot of the beginner websites, they just miss that, for lack of a better term, like pizzazz of personality. They miss that like personable touch where it sounds like an actual human, and it reads more just like a resume and, hey, I do nutrition coaching, ta-da, contact me for more information. Like, it's not building connection, it's not building trust. And so that's one of the biggest things is I want you to show your personality and not feel like, oh, I'm a professional and I have to be buttoned up. And yes, we want to talk about your credentials and show that you're an expert, but you are a human. And like, working on your health is a very personal, vulnerable thing. And so people really want to see, what is, not that I'm a dietitian, but they're like, what is Jess? What is Amy? Can I trust her to talk about my condition? Can I trust her to work with her for 6 months? I want to know that this is someone that I can vibe with, that I would want to work with in this like close container. And so personality is one thing, and then it goes along with that is the messaging and copy. I mentioned that from a personality perspective, but also from a clarity perspective. A lot of dietitians, especially, are very general and vague. And so even if you are like, hey, I haven't figured out my niche yet, I just in general work with anybody, or women in general, and I can work with whatever, I just focus on women. Even if you're still broad like that, being really clear in your copy, because I often, again, I go to someone who's DIY'd their website and I pull it up and it's, I help you live a healthier, happier life. Okay, what does that mean?
That's such a vague outcome, isn't it?
Yes,
very
I'm
fluffed up.
Yeah, one, you haven't articulated that you work with women. And two, is it, even if it's general nutrition that you do, just be more specific. Is it that you're helping them be healthier, quote unquote, for their workouts, for running around with their kids, for just longevity? Be really articulate. That's going to help people know that they're in the right place. So they're going to stay on your site longer, and they're more likely to convert into a client when they understand, oh, okay, Amy does this, and this is exactly what I'm looking for, versus just like this broad generalization. And so we want to be specific. That also helps your SEO, which we can talk about SEO in a little bit, but that specificity helps with the SEO. Even if you're not even trying to think about SEO yet, it can still help.
Yeah, absolutely. And I really, hand on heart, agree and believe in what you're saying. So many people, I suppose, they think, okay, the first thing I need to do when I start a website is I got to start my business, is go build a website. But we haven't done that foundational work with understanding who are we here for, what are we helping people with, and what's the outcome. So that messaging, the niche, even if you don't have a niche, like you said, just understanding the transformations that you help people achieve. And so it leads on to another question that I have is, if someone has got multiple niches, would you recommend dumping it all on one page, or should we have sub pages built out under the services tab that covers each of those interest areas?
Yes. So I always recommend separating your services or niches onto separate pages. So for example, I have a client who's a dietitian. When we worked together, it was just her, and I think maybe she had one other dietitian on her team. She's now grown. I think she's up to 5 or 6 dietitians in her practice. but she, like, her homepage was really focused around, we are a non-diet, intuitive eating, like nutrition coaching practice, whatever. But she had several kind of niches within that. So she could help people who had eating disorders. She could help postpartum moms. She could help teenagers. I want to say she had 6 or 7 different kind of like niches, quote unquote, or like specific services or demographics that she could help. And she's very localized also, so I should clarify that. And so the homepage, like when you landed, it would said something about like non-diet, dietitians, nutrition coaching. And then we had the little summary box for each of the little specific services that she offered. And then that took them to that specific landing page. So it wasn't overwhelming people with all this information on the homepage of here's all the ways that we can work with you and all the different things that we offer. But it was a very quick, you could read the little headlines and see like postpartum, teenagers, just general intuitive eating, nutrition coaching, anything like that, and then go to that page. One, this just makes it easy for people to see the specific way that you can help them if you offer multiple services. So that's good. And then 2, you can optimize each of those pages for SEO. Whereas it's harder, like if you think about one sales page for her that is supposed to talk about intuitive eating and postpartum and teenagers and eating disorders, like
you lose people.
Yeah, you're going to lose people. It's going to be impossible to optimize for SEO. And then you're going to end up having less copy, that's less clarification about your services and what's included and whatnot, because once you start adding so many, the page is going to start getting longer and longer. And so I always recommend splitting them out. Even for, I've had clients who, one niche, I work with athletes, this is what I do. Even if you have one-to-one nutrition coaching and then you have a membership, or maybe you have a group program, you have one-to-one and a group program, even if it's the same niche, split those up. Basically, every offer, almost every service, every niche should have its own sales page. The only exception I would say is sometimes if you're like, oh, like for going back to my client with all the different services, that postpartum page, let's pretend she has a group program and one-to-one, both available for postpartum, that I would keep on the same page because she already has 6 or 7 other sales pages. And so it can be like, this is the postpartum page and there's 2 ways you can work with me. We don't need to send people down too many rabbit holes with too many different links, but all of that organization is stuff that like your web designer should be working with you to clarify like what needs to have a separate page and what needs to be on one page.
Yeah, I agree that when we think about it, there's so many elements that can go on a page. And you said something earlier, which I think is so important to highlight, which could be a big mistake as well that I've picked out in the client's website, is that they send them down rabbit holes. And it's like, where are we taking them? And people get lost. And so it's so important to think about that client journey. So put yourself in the shoes or get someone else to have a look for you and see if it makes sense going through from your homepage to the services that they're looking for. And this kind of brings me to the next question as well. What kind of key pages to have on a website? So we talked about the homepage, which is a brief summary to take people to relevant places. And then we've got the services work with me page, which can be broken down. So what are the pages which you recommend having?
Yeah, so we do need an about page. I often get asked, can I just use my homepage as like the about page? Can that just be one and the same? No, it cannot. Your about page is often one of the most visited pages on your website because, again, people want to know, who are you? Can I trust you? Is this someone who has like credentials? Are you a real person? And they are going to look at that about page. But just make sure that the about page is not your life story. Like, we don't need to know that you started being interested in nutrition at the age of 7. We do want some of your backstory, but like, I have seen about pages over the years that it is like, this could be an entire blog post or a small book. Like, this is way too much information, way too much detail. And so try to condense that. But we also, on the flip side of that, We don't want it to just be your credentials. That doesn't give us any connection. And so we want it to be kind of a mix of a little bit of your backstory, your credentials, and then really talking about like your philosophy, your approach, so that we know like how do you work with clients, especially in the dietitian space. Obviously, there's some who are anti-diet or non-diet and others who do help with weight loss. And so something like that kind of detail should be very clear across the whole website, but you can dive a little bit deeper into that on the about page and why you hold this value and why you take this approach. We really want to position the about page of like why you're the best choice. So that's why the about page needs its own page and can't just be a little box on the home page.
Yeah, I agree. Such an important page there. I think a lot of people struggle to talk about themselves, so that is probably the least favorite page to write.
Yeah. And I hope like the little explanation I gave helps you reframe that it's not just about you. Yes, in a way it's about your values, your approach, your method, but it's not you in that you're like, I'm so great and here's my life story, and you're like, how much am I saying? Like, I always position it as like, it's a little bit more about the business. And here at whatever Nutrition LLC, like we are non-diet, we approach this with X, Y, and Z. So approach it that way. So we have home, about, services or multiple services page. I typically like to include a patient info page. This sometimes does not apply. If you only have a group program or membership, you wouldn't need this. But if you're local, this is an absolute like necessity. Even if you're virtual, this can be good to have, especially also if you take insurance, this can be helpful. So the patient info page is going to talk about insurance, fees, what you can expect in the first visit, even if it's a virtual visit, like what to expect in that first visit. And again, if you're local, then you can also talk about like parking and location and those kinds of things. So again, that would vary depending on the practice or the type of business, but I'm doing that page more and more for clients because it just has a lot of good information. Some of that you would want to include on the services page. If you take insurance, you want to mention that on more than just the patient info page. Because as we know, there are lots of dietitians who don't take insurance, and then there are some that do. So we want to make this very clear across the website so that if someone is like, I'm looking for someone who does take my insurance, they don't have to go through 5 different pages and then finally see, oh, she doesn't take insurance. Now I've wasted like 10 minutes trying to find this information and now I have to go find somebody else. Sometimes, depending again on kind of the type of practice, type of business, an FAQ page can be beneficial. I typically like to keep FAQs on the services page or on the work with me page. But if you are someone who has a lot of services, or maybe you have services and products and a membership, sometimes an FAQ page can be good to have. Like I have FAQs on each page, but then I also have a whole FAQ page where it's broken into, here's web design FAQ and SEO FAQ, so that if for some reason like something didn't answer the question, they can hop over and check this out. And then I would say one of the last pages that I really love to recommend is a resources page. This is the page where you can put any affiliate links. Like I know a lot of my dietitian clients are Amazon affiliates and they like to recommend like kitchen tools, especially my dietitians that work with a lot of families or kids. There's a lot of, sometimes you have the fun little forks and toothpicks that you use with kids, or just different utensils that make cooking easier and faster. So you can list Amazon affiliate links, or even if they're not affiliate links, just Amazon links to products you recommend, podcast, books. Basically, think about the things that you're mentioning to clients or followers that are good resources and put them all on one page. This makes you look more like an expert because you're like, look, I have this list of resources that can help you in all these different areas. Even if they're, and I know you might be thinking, or like, how does that make me look like an expert? Like, it's not my book or my kitchen utensils or whatever, but you have gotten all of these resources, you know your audience so well that you can just put all this in one place. And if you are an affiliate for some of these products, then obviously it's a little more passive income because people can find that. They're reading your blog or coming to check out your services. Then they see these other products. And it's not that the passive income is just relying on you talking about it on Instagram. Because I feel like a lot of my clients are like, oh, I only get an affiliate sale if I talk about it on my Instagram story or something. This allows you to bring in more clicks for just having this page on your site. It also makes it easier when people, if you're talking to clients or you're DMing with people on Instagram and they're like, oh, like, what do you recommend for, and you can just send the resources page and let them find it instead of you being like, let me go get my affiliate link. Let me go get the link to this podcast that I love. You can just say, oh, like I have my favorite podcast is whatever. You can find the link on this page. Boom, done.
Yeah. And you can also integrate those links into your blog posts as well. So if someone's asked a question, send them to your blog and you can have your recommended books or links for Amazon in there. And that brings in more traffic to your website, which is always a good thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's very good recommendation. Now, I also wanted to ask you, you talked about a resources page. So how about lead magnets? Where does that fit in all of this?
So typically, you can do it one of two ways. I've had lots of clients who include their free lead magnets on the resources page, typically at the top of the resources page. I've had some clients who have very in-depth resources page. And so it's like, there's already a lot on this page. We need to like have its own page. I'm a huge fan of having also a landing page just for an individual lead magnet. I know some people might have 2 or 3 lead magnets. You could put all of those on one page. I feel like that doesn't always perform as well just because it typically is here's the title and 2 sentences and then a form. So it's not as enticing. And so I like to set up like a whole landing page just for the lead magnet. This doesn't have to be super lengthy. If you're like, oh my gosh, I have to set up a whole page for my lead magnet, it can be a few paragraphs. Like it doesn't have to be anything huge. But you can also like link, if you have if you end up doing a resources page, you could put resources like in your navigation menu and then have a drop down to, oh, here's all my favorite things and link them to that page with all the affiliate links and products. And then also a link to, oh, here's my free lead magnet. And I wouldn't say that in the navigation menu. I'd say emotional eating guide or free meal plan or something like that. And then you can also, it's easier to link straight to that page in blog posts, in emails, and social media. If you're using ManyChat on Instagram, you can send people that direct link. So that makes it easier. I prefer to use that on your website versus like a ConvertKit landing page or Flowdesk landing page, whatever, only because then it's actually on your domain. And so you can control the look of it more. It's keeping people on your site and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Just for clarity's sake as well for our audience, because they may not understand the term. So a landing page is basically a standalone page. And we don't want any navigation on top, isn't it? So we don't want a homepage, about me page, because the last thing you want people to do when they get to your website, to your opt-in page for your lead magnet, is to then go click away and explore something else. And then they go down a rabbit hole and forget what they're there on your website for. So I always say to my clients, make sure you remove the navigation from your opt-in page. So they're on there just for one purpose, which is to opt in to your lead magnet.
Yes.
And the general public doesn't know what a lead magnet is. So you do want to, like Jess say, tell them exactly what this is. So an emotional eating guide to help you achieve X, Y, and Z. So make sure we list the benefits on that page as well and keep it simple. We don't need sections after sections explaining the benefits. Nah, it's a free resource, so make it easy for them to opt in. Yeah. I know this is a bit off topic, but talking about opt-ins, we want to keep that simple as well with the things that we ask from them. So we ask for their first name, their email address. Don't need to ask for their phone number or address or anything like that.
And honestly, I don't even ask for their first name because research has shown like even just not asking for their name can usually lead to more people signing up, just because it's one less thing they have to type in, or it keeps them feeling a little more anonymous, and not in a bad way, but just there's some, I don't know, some people just want to don't want to put in their first name for whatever reason. And so you can test that. I know that means then you can't put in the personalization in your emails where it starts oh, hey, first name. So you can't do that. But if it means more people on your email list, then I would take that over being able to put in a personalization in your newsletters.
Yeah. So it's always worth testing it, isn't it? Looking at the analytics on your website. So typically with lead magnet opt-ins, we say if someone lands on your page, you want to try and aim for at least 40 to 50% conversion. I don't know if you have a different number that you aim for, but we want to test out different things to see what can we tweak to increase the conversions on that page. Like just the other day, yesterday, I was looking at a client's opt-in page and she's, it's not converting. We're not getting people to put in their email address. So I looked at it and thought, there is a lot of information on this page and it's very wordy. So break it up, make it simple, like some of the things that we talked about earlier. But do you have any tips, Jess, for optimizing conversions on a opt-in page?
Yeah. I think one big change that you can make is making sure the headline on the page is really engaging. So not just free meal plan, but make it really specific, make it engaging. If it's free meal plan for busy moms, or meal plan with 10-minute meals, or you can use ChatGPT to help you brainstorm some better options. But making it that part more engaging, because that's the big part that's going to stand out, then that can help. Because again, people are going to skim some of the information on the page. So we want that headline to be really engaging. And especially, I've even seen some people where it's the big headline is grab my free download. And then what it is just in the normal text, that is not engaging. So we want it to be really clear of free meal plan for busy moms or whatever it is.
Yeah, call out those characteristics, right?
Yes.
So they know it's for them. And even though it's a freebie, they still need to know why should they give you the email address. They want to know it's relevant for them.
Yeah. And then the other thing that I always encourage people to do is make sure that the sign up button on that form is one of your bright brand colors. And even if you're I don't really have a bright brand color, just choose one that is a higher contrast. Or if at default, if you're okay with being maybe a little bit off brand, go with a red or orange kind of color. It doesn't have to be fire truck engine red, but some kind of warm hue that encourages action. That's a little bit of color psychology. So that can help. And so finding something, even if it's just on this landing page, that the color stands out a little bit more, that's going to help people. And it's not necessarily that, oh, I can't see the button and I don't know how to sign up. We know that they know the button, to how to sign up, but that bright color just draws their eye in and really makes it stand out. So it's not a matter of, oh, I can't see it. I didn't know how to hit submit, but it's really just helping encourage that action. And then the one other thing I would test is actually having a picture of you with the form. So sometimes people will just put if it's a meal plan, you might think, oh, I'm just going to have a picture of some food next to this freebie or in the banner or something. A picture of you is going to help build that trust. And psychology and research shows that pictures of smiling people on website helps conversion by up to 80%. And that's conversions even with services or products or anything, but especially emails. And test putting the picture of you on that sign up page.
Yeah, that's really good advice. We are in the service profession, right? So people want to know that they can trust us. Even if it's a freebie, they want to see who is this person behind us. So put your picture on there. If you don't have photos, your iPhone, get good daylight in and take photos, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. Now, I thought of a couple more things to add on to opt-in pages. I think we can go on for days about this.
This
So
is
many
the stuff
things
I
to think
love.
about. Yeah, me too. So you talked about the button being something that stands out. And the other thing is like above the fold. So the first thing that they see when they get to your website or to your opt-in page, you want to have your button, your form there already. So they don't have to scroll down all the way down to find it. So that's something important to include. The other thing is making sure that your pages and your website is mobile responsive. So obviously with some of these drag and drop sites, that is easy enough, but making sure that people can see the text quite clearly on the mobile. I think you probably know the stats better that most people look at stuff on your mobile these days. They go from your Instagram to your pages. So you want to make sure it's easy for them to read it and take the next step.
Yes, you want to make it very easy to look at on mobile. And this is maybe slightly more advanced, but something you could think about or have your web designer look at. On mobile, you can typically rearrange how things appear. And so let's pretend I come to your landing page and it's like the text over on the left, and then on the right is a small image of you and the opt-in form. So like without even scrolling, I see text, image, and the form. Great, looks awesome. But then when I go to mobile, it's like text that I have to scroll through, then an image, then the form. I would either hide the image of you, and I know I just said put an image of you to help with conversions, either hide the image or rearrange it where the form shows first. And depending on even how you have like the text boxes, if it's one big text box or two, you could even do the header and maybe one little line, then the form, then more text, and then the picture of you. Because we want, again, like we don't want people to have to scroll forever to find the sign up form. And so anytime you can make it like appear sooner on mobile, that's going to be easier. On Squarespace, this is super easy to do. Their mobile editor, it typically just collapses everything on the page and there it is. But they allow you to rearrange things on mobile and it doesn't affect the desktop view. And so that's where if you put like the headline in one text box and the other text in another, you could slide the form up in between so it shows up higher. And then on WordPress, especially like I know in Divi, you can rearrange things, hide things, you can like do all that kind of stuff. And so they make it easy to manipulate things a little bit on mobile. So
and you can hide it on mobile, but have it on the desktop view as well, right?
Yes,
and separate that. Yeah.
Yes. And so again, that's a little advanced. If that's overwhelming, don't think about it right now, but that could be something you look at down the road.
Yeah. And just to add to that as well, I know you can add buttons that then skips to the opt-in form. So you don't have the forms in multiple places, just on top and then one at the bottom. So if they do scroll the way to the bottom, the button can bring them straight back to the top. So that can improve ease. But mobile responsiveness is such a big thing to look at. We want to make sure that you check through everything that you create because sometimes you've got lots of big spaces between sections as well, which can annoy people.
Yes, or even if you like, you've probably seen layouts on websites where it's two images like juxtaposed or maybe overlapping. Then on mobile, depending on if like how those images are set up and whatever, then you have two images that you have to scroll past. They're taking up your entire phone screen. And so again, either separating them, hiding one, that can help with like less scrolling. And so when I'm designing sites, I often tell clients like, okay, this page is done, or like all the pages are done. I'm gonna like tweak the mobile view. And most of my clients are like, I don't even know what that means, but sure, sounds great. And then I'm like, okay, look, like you can check out the mobile view, see if you're okay with it. And I usually am saying like, I hid a few images. So just know like those aren't magically disappearing. That's very intentional. And I explain like, it's just something that is not 100% necessary, like on mobile, that we can hide maybe one or two images just so they scroll a little bit less.
That's it, yeah. Talking about things that annoys people, one of the things that is one of my pet peeve is pop-ups on
Oh gosh.
website. So let's go there and talk about it. Yay or nay for pop-ups? And if it's a yay and it works, when do we show it? Because I know some sites, some platforms, you can control when it pops up.
So I am fairly anti pop-up. I think they are more of a nuisance. Now I know the research is that they work. I find them to be very annoying, and I know most people do. I think the only time I would do a pop-up like that appears after 5 seconds is one, if you already have a very good opt-in rate and you know that this opt-in converts well. Because if you are like, oh, look, I got a new opt-in, I'm going to test it out, do a pop-up. If no one wants it, now you are giving them a point of friction on your website and you're still not getting conversions. And so the point of friction was for nothing. The other thing is that in my experience, this might be different for your people, a lot of my clients don't actually have a history or track record of selling through their email list. A lot of them haphazardly use their email list. They're not very intentional about it. They don't really convert people. They don't it's just, oh yeah, I have a newsletter because somebody told me I should. And so I'm like, unless you have a proven system, a track record of selling through your email list that works and you're actually getting leads that way, then the pop-up is just an obstacle that's keeping people from getting to your services page. So I, again, think that it's better to just allow people to get straight to the services page instead of annoying them with this pop-up, because otherwise we're putting up this obstacle and you're like, yay, I got new email subscribers, but then you turn around and you're like, I don't really want to email my list. I don't know what to email them. And I'm like, why are you doing this pop-up that everyone hates when you're not actually utilizing the email list? That said, if you want to do a pop-up, an exit intent is one of the best ones. So
Agree.
somehow the tech knows when people are leaving the website and it will pop up as they're about to exit out. And so you can try to catch them before they leave. The other thing you can do, this is not as well known, and definitely there's not as many plugins or things that have this functionality, but you can use what's called a slide in. And so it appears down in the corner. So it's not a pop-up, but it just literally slides into the screen and you can say, oh, hey, grab my free guide. And so it's way less intrusive, but it's still, in a way, pops up, quote unquote, but it's much less intrusive. And then the other thing I would say, Google hates pop-ups on mobile because it's really bad user experience. I don't want to go as far as to say that Google penalizes you or hides you from search if you have a mobile pop-up, but it is negatively affecting your site experience and most likely negatively affecting your SEO. And so if you have a pop-up, make sure it is disabled on mobile devices, which then at that point, people are like, but most of my traffic comes from mobile. I'm like, I know, but if you care about the site experience, if you care about the SEO, then you need to figure out another way. And there are plugins that you can use that do a bar on mobile instead of an annoying pop-up. So it's like a bar that kind of hovers at the bottom of the screen and you can direct people to do that. So that's an option. You can do a bar across the top of the website also.
Yeah, I like that more. And you can select which pages you want it to come up as well. So it doesn't have to be on every page.
Right. So there's options out there. I always like to remind people, the pop-ups are not the only way. There are lots of options out there. And so just really test things out. Think about how are you utilizing your email list? And one of the biggest things is make sure you have an opt-in in every single blog post. I see a lot of people who are blogging and there's no opt-in. And I'm like, so much traffic is hopefully coming to those blog posts and you are not capturing people to get on your email list. So it's a very big missed opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be as easy as if you're giving them a recipe, if you love this, I've got more here, you can opt into that, or I've got a digital product that goes through this in further detail, link it to that. So you're intentionally thinking about that customer journey and where you want to lead them from that. Yeah, amazing. So that's really helpful, Jess, talking about opt-in pages and pop-ups, what to look at. Now I want to shift to talking about sales pages. So these function a little bit differently to your main website pages, and often they should be standalone pages that sells something. So let's talk about that. And I want to specifically relate that to online courses and programs. So do you have any tips? So if I were to ask you for your 3 biggest tips with optimizing conversions and sales pages, what can you tell us?
The first tip is do not put your program or course name as the headline on the page. When someone comes to the services page or the sales page for your course and it says like nutrition blueprint course, whatever, it's not a very good name, but that doesn't tell them anything. It's not intriguing. Now, yes, if they came from like a sales email because you're in the middle of the launch, like they, in theory, already have a little bit of context, but you have to think about your website always in terms of what if a complete stranger sees this? What if somebody is coming to this who doesn't follow me on Instagram, who's not on my email list? I want to give them the information without assuming that they already know X, Y, and Z about my course. And so do not put that as the headline. Do not put the name as the headline when they first land on the page. It can be like fairly quick, like after that. I'm not saying we have to hide the name, but we want the result that they're going to get from your course or program to be the headline.
So something like transform your gut health, or something like that speaks to the benefit and the results that they want.
Transform your gut health, stop bloating in 6 weeks or 6 months or whatever it is.
So that's your promise.
Yes, you want to put that at the top because that helps people know that they're in the right place and that they oh yes, I am looking for gut health help. I want to keep reading. So that's one of the very first things. Second, you want to have multiple buttons on the page that will take them to the checkout, to the application, to whatever it is, wherever the call to action is to join or to sign up. We don't want to make them scroll through the entire page, especially if you're using a very long sales page, like having multiple buttons. Even my pages for my services are not that long, especially like my SEO services page is like 3 sections. Like it's pretty short and sweet. I have a button in that like first section that jumps them down to the pricing, even though it would take 0.5 seconds to scroll down. And so having multiple buttons throughout the page so they can jump down to the pricing to see that information. Because often I love to watch heat maps. So heat maps are like, you can see how people scroll and click and interact with your site. It's fascinating to me. And often I see people will on a button, click to see pricing, and then like they see the pricing and then they scroll back up to keep reading because they want to see what the price is to see if they can even afford it before they spend all this time reading the page. That's one thing that's interesting, is just how quickly they want to see the price. Now, I don't recommend like just putting the price at the top. Like if you hear that and you're like, oh, I'll just put the price at the top, and then because not everyone clicks down to see the price. And so we want to use that sales copy to help show them why they need this course or program. Then the third thing I would say, similar to what I mentioned on the opt-ins, make sure you have a picture of you or multiple pictures of you, because we want to build that trust and connection. And so smiling pictures of you are very important. You can also be laughing if you want like fun pictures or whatever, but we don't want just the brand photos of you like chopping an apple or whatever. Like it's you in the kitchen and like you're turned to the side and we can't really see your face. Like we want to see your face on that page.
Even if they're selling a meal plan, it's something that they don't even work with the clients one-on-one, you still want to see their photo.
Yes. And then I would say, as a bonus tip, make sure you have testimonials sprinkled throughout the page. A big mistake that I see a lot of people make is that the testimonials are buried at the bottom of the page and then no one sees them. Something that I see quite often, again, with heat maps and the data that I watch for my clients, is once people get to the pricing section, whatever is after pricing usually gets very little attention. And so make sure that anything that is after that is not super like vital information. In theory, yes, you could also just put pricing at the very bottom and there's nothing else after that. But sometimes it's okay if FAQ is after it, because in theory, FAQ should just be any like really like random questions. If your FAQ is 15 questions long, information needs to be up in the sales copy. It doesn't need to be in the FAQ. That means you don't have good copy. And so it's okay if the FAQ is down below that, because ideally people don't need to actually hopefully most people don't even need to look at the FAQ because your page has clarified all that information. And so don't bury the testimonials below the pricing because they're typically not going to be very visible. They're not going to get a lot of attention. You want them throughout the sales page.
Yeah, very good tip. Testimonials serve such an important purpose to tackle objections. So we want to look at what type of testimonials we're using as well. It's not just say, so-and-so helped me to lose 10 kilos, but it's speaking to perhaps looking at how you're asking your clients for testimonials to get good information.
Yes.
So if people have tried multiple different things before and so they're skeptical, is this going to work for me? So hopefully you know the right questions to ask to get that sort of information out of your client. Yeah, and I'll just quickly do a little disclaimer here because I get asked this all the time. In Australia and Canada, dietitians are not allowed to use testimonials with their advertising. It goes against regulatory rules. So just be careful and make sure you read all the terms and conditions and things before you use them. There is a certain way to use it where it doesn't impede on those rules. So just be careful. And I always look through testimonials with my clients as well, those who want to use it, especially if they're in Australia, just to make sure that they're not getting themselves in hot water.
Yes. Good disclaimer.
Yeah, awesome. Now, a couple more questions, Jess. I just have so many questions for you. I think these are all very relevant. I hope our listeners are taking lots of notes on this. Now, this next one's about SEO. We alluded to this earlier. So is SEO important? Or even let's start with, what is SEO? Why do they need to care about that?
Yes. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. It basically means we are optimizing the words and the images and everything on your site to improve your chances of showing up in Google search results when people are searching for the thing you want to be known for. So if you are a dietitian for athletes, then we want to improve the chances of you showing up when people are searching like dietitian for athletes or athlete nutrition or whatever kind of those terms. Because what people don't realize is just because you have a website doesn't mean that Google even knows you exist, because there are millions and millions of websites. And I've had clients over the years who we launched their website and one day later they're like, I Googled myself and I don't show up.
Takes time, honey.
Takes time. It could take some time. Google hasn't even gotten there yet. Like, they are still walking up to the door. They haven't even gotten there yet. And just because you're like, oh, like my website talks about being a dietitian for moms and all this kind of stuff, it doesn't automatically mean that even if Google does know you exist, doesn't mean that they automatically are like, oh, okay, Jane is a dietitian for moms. We're just going to put her up in search. Here you go. Like, Google has to trust you. They have to know that you are a credible source. They have to see you as trustworthy. And so we have to optimize this and tell Google, this is what I'm about. I'm an expert. I'm a credible source. You can trust me. And then over time, that you hopefully would start showing up in search. So SEO is super important. Even with AI, that's a question I've been getting a lot in the last year is, okay, but ChatGPT and the Google AI summary, should I even care about SEO anymore? Yes, there are still billions of searches every day. People are still using Google. Yes, there's a rise in using ChatGPT instead of search, but not enough that Google is like going downhill. And so I really want to encourage you to lean into SEO. I like to say that SEO is a form of self-care because as a health professional, you are encouraging your clients to take care of themselves, not just with nutrition and hydration and sleep, but also their own mental well-being. You don't want them to be burnt out from work. You want them to have stress relief. You're helping them, like, how can we wind down? How can you de-stress so you can sleep better? You have to do that for yourself as well. And I know a lot of dietitians are getting burnt out by Instagram or social media, and they're like, I'm so tired of making these reels and I get 132 views and no one sees it, and I'm tired of fighting the algorithm, and you start to get frustrated. And SEO is long form, and it has a long ROI. I have a blog post that this speaks to both the longevity of SEO and also talks about AI a little bit. So I have a blog post that I wrote in 2020, and it was about Wix and why you shouldn't use Wix. It ranks in search, and I got an inquiry just in January, a few weeks ago. And someone said, I was Googling about Wix because she was thinking about using Wix for her website. And your blog post was linked and mentioned in the Google AI summary at the top of the search results. And so I clicked on it and read your post. You convinced me not to use Wix, so now I need you to do my website. And so...
How amazing is that from 5 years ago?
Think about, has anybody even seen an Instagram post from 5 weeks ago, let alone 5 months, 5 years ago? That's not happening. And so it really has a long shelf life. And I also speaking to AI, I had a client just a few weeks ago who messaged me and was like, we got a client from ChatGPT. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? What do you mean? And so this client was really out of my niche. They're a garage door repair company. And so it was a friend of a friend, one of those random projects last year. But somebody in their area went to ChatGPT instead of Google, went to ChatGPT and said, show me whatever it was, like garage door repair companies in whatever city. And my client showed up at the top. ChatGPT gave that person like 3 or 4 results because I went and tested this. After I got this DM, I was like, is ChatGPT going to show me the same thing? So I had to test it for myself. And sure enough, I was like, show me, because I don't think ChatGPT knows your location. And so I said, show me these girls. And my client showed up first with a link to their website. And to be perfectly clear, I did nothing special to optimize for ChatGPT. It's just that ChatGPT is also scouring the Google search results. They're looking in among probably other things like Google Map businesses and Yelp and those kinds of things. I'm not entirely clear how it gets all its results, but by optimizing for SEO, we also optimized for ChatGPT, and it got my clients a new client. And so
incredible.
SEO absolutely matters, even with AI.
Yeah, absolutely. No, SEO is such a broad, and there is so much. You can literally go down holes and holes looking into this. If someone needs help, is this a service that you offer? And what do you do with your clients that comes to you for SEO?
Yeah, SEO can be very overwhelming. I'm not going to be shy about that. It can be overwhelming if you're not in this world, but I always try to simplify for people. It's just using the words that you want to be known for. So if you are a dietitian for moms, you need to use that type of phrasing all around your website. So try not to overthink it. If you just want to start simple, think about that. If I want to be known as a dietitian for moms, as a personal trainer for athletes, whatever, you have to actually use those words. You can't use similar words or fun language. We can still use that fun language in certain places, but in the headings, in the SEO titles, you want to be super clear about what you want to be known for. So I do offer just SEO. If you're like, I don't really need a new design, I just need SEO, I can do the keyword research for you. And then I just give you here's the phrases, put this on this page, put this on this page. And I give you what words to put on what pages. I give you suggestions of make these copy tweaks on the page. And so it's up to you to make all the changes on your site. And it's not techie. If you know how to edit text boxes on your site, you can handle this. I think sometimes people are like, SEO means I have to load things or go into the theme editor. No, it's just, if you can edit text boxes, you can do this. I promise. And then if you're like, I don't want to touch anything, or I want some more help, I also have what I call like my VIP day. I do an audit of your site. I optimize all of your pages for you. And then you get 15 SEO-rich blog post ideas. So again, I do the keyword research, find topics that are already good for SEO. So you're not like, hey, like it's not just I'm coming up with random blog post ideas. It is actual, I've done the keyword research. This is the phrase you need to use. Here's like a suggested title and brief outline, but you can tweak that as you need. Going into the content creation that the post is going to already be good for SEO.
Yeah, amazing. So they can get help. They don't have to go and study a SEO course.
Yes. And I do have some SEO trainings. I don't even like to call them courses because it's not even teaching you about SEO. It is literally walking you through, just do this. So I tell people like, this is not actually a course. Like, I'm not teaching you the ins and outs of SEO. I'm literally like, I'm going to walk you through how to like I'm going to hold your hand and show you how to optimize your pages. Or I have one for your pages, your blog post, your podcast. So I have like different options depending on what you want to focus on. And it literally is just do this. You're step one. So it's not like a 15 practical. Hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful. Jess, this has been such an incredible conversation. Thank you so much for your wonderful knowledge. You've been so generous with that. Now, before we go, do you have any advice? You've been running a business for a number of years. I think it was pre-2020, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's been many years. Any advice when it comes to business, whether it's mindset, marketing, or things that dietitians and nutritionists needs to know? What advice do you have for them?
Yes. So I feel like I'm a grandma in the online space because I've been in business for 14 years. And so I'm like, people are like, oh, I started 4 years ago. And I'm like, I started 14 years ago and I feel like a grandma here. But my best advice is always to not be afraid to pivot or try new things. I think that has been one of the best things that I've done in my business. And when I say try new things, I don't mean like a whole different business or totally changing, oh, I'm going to try new things. I'm going to become a web designer. Not saying that you have to totally change your business, but don't be afraid to like, oh, I wonder how my audience would respond to a challenge or like a 5-day challenge. Oh, I wonder how my audience would respond to these type of Instagram videos. I've really been doing a lot of this. And what if I tried this instead just for 2 weeks? That has always served me well to just experiment. And I don't make an announcement of I'm trying new Instagram videos or I'm trying a new YouTube strategy. Yeah, so no one knows. I try it and then I see how it goes and okay, it's not working. Great. So like, for example, just last summer, I was like, oh, like, you know what I haven't done in a while? Several years ago, I used to do like website audit on Instagram. And so I was like, oh, like I should get back to doing that. And so I asked my audience, like, who would be willing to let me do a website audit and create content from it? And so I did some YouTube videos and Instagram videos. I would say like a dozen or so audits. The first like handful got really good like engagement and feedback and people loved it. And then they got tired of it, honestly. I think they got tired of it. And then I was like, you know what? I've been doing this for 3 or 4 months and it hasn't actually led to anything. So I think I'm done. So I just stopped doing them. And it actually ended up one of those website audits did actually lead to a client like 3 months later. But it was something I tried. It did serve my brand. But then in the end, like, okay, this isn't working like I thought it would. And so not being afraid to just try things, I think is one of the best things you can do.
Because what's the worst that can happen from this, isn't it? I think there's never failure in business. It's simply a learning experience that sets you up for what's to come. And I love your advice as well. One thing that I always say to my clients is you got to be curious in business.
Yes.
You have to be willing to try new things to see what comes out of it. And then you learn from it. If it doesn't work, it's okay. Like the world is not ending. It doesn't mean that we have failed and we need to go hide and cry in a blanket and stuff like that. No, you learn so much from it. And that's the theme that I've been seeing over the years since COVID as well. Like some people are saying, okay, things are changing, shifting, then give up, close shop and then go back to being an employee. But I think it's really about listening to the market, adapting and evolving. So you get better and evolve with the audience according to what they need. So
Yes.
curiosity. Key. Yeah. Thank you for that advice, Jess. Thank you once again. So appreciate your time.
Yeah.
And I'm going to link some resources in the show notes for our listeners, and also your SEO audit or any other services that you think will be relevant for our audience as well in the show notes. But if they want to connect with you, where is the best platform for them to reach out?
Yeah, I am super active on Instagram at Jess Creatives, but I'm pretty much everywhere. And then my website is jesscreatives.com.
Awesome. So they can talk to you directly, a human.
Yes.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jess. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. I'll see you guys back here next week.